International Geographic Research and Production present Mystical Altai.
О Алтай, стоишь ты выше тучи звезд.
O Altai, you lie above the skies and the stars. The blue sky is the roof of your mountains, and the countless stars are the eyes of the sky guards that protect the whiteness of your mountain peaks. One who has lived at least one lifetime in your mountains will never die. O Altai, you are blessed. O Altai, how beautiful is thy name. A blue word is wrapped in white shimmering light, surrounded by a rainbow. Altai is not just a location on a map. The ancient land of Altai is saturated with amazing legends. Every stone, every tree, every stream in Altai is sacred. Fortunes of gold are scattered in its beautiful rivers, but no man can find the gold, for the spirits do not let them. The spirits have ruled the land of Altai since ancient times, but now the land is silent. It does not want to surrender its riches. Or maybe people cannot hear the spirits of the earth anymore. The great heroes of ancient times are asleep. The Altai Mountains are waiting for their moment. They are awaiting the last battle, the battle for good, for light, for beauty. A long time ago, the Golden Age was upon these lands. The great heroes led their herds across these steeps, loved their beautiful wives, took care of their children, and protected their sacred land from enemies. When the heroes died, large stones were placed on their graves and were then surrounded with stone fences. Rows of balbal stones lead to the fence. The number of these stones corresponds to the number of enemies killed by this warrior. The favorite horse of the dead warrior and his favorite weapon are buried along with him in the center of the structure. And Ursul Oirot, the shepherd, turned into a giant slab of granite, and the rock fell into the Dailu lake, and the edge of the emerald grail was broken. The waters of the lake began to boil, and the terrible flow of the Chulashman River started to force its way into the underworld, where Erlik the Shaggy rules under the cover of eternal night. That is how the miracle of great love and the quest for truth for Altai turned the poor shepherd into a mountain warrior and a great Han, who must stand as a stone till the right moment arrives. And all his herd wandered into the mountains and steeps of Altai. No one can gather them together, for they too await the moment that will someday come. Camels have lived in the Altai steeps since ancient times. Once they had been domesticated and helped the locals in their daily labor, but people are different nowadays and do not understand the camels. The camels became wild, and now locals value them only for their meat and furs. In ancient times, the people communicated with their gods and depicted them on stones and rock walls. The universe consisted of the three worlds: the upper world, the sky, the middle world, the earth, and the underworld. The sky had the shape of a dome and covered the entire earth, touching its edges. The three brightest stars in the Orion constellation are the three female deer, Uk-Muigak, who had risen to the stars, escaping the hunter. Slowly, the zoomorphic vision of the gods changed to the anthropomorphic one. People began to depict the gods in the image of human beings. These images served as icons and helped the ancients communicate with the world of the gods. In the steppe, one can still discover the so-called stone babas. These sculptures, representing dead warriors, were often depicted with goblets in their hands. The friends and comrades of the hero visited his grave on Memorial Days and held feasts, with the dead warrior participating as guest of honor. A poet would stand next to the sculpture. His task was to sing the farewell song of the hero. I parted with my princess and my comrades. I entered the enemy's haunts mourning. I am the powerful Tuk-Tuk-Kul. I have parted with my domain and my Han. Alas, there were too many of my enemies, and I had to part with you. The great shamans were buried in special places and surrounded with structures reminiscent of the English Stonehenge. Large stones were arranged in a circle so that they faced the four sides of the world. Some stones mark the points of the winter and summer solstice. The rocks from which these stones were crafted cannot be found in the nearby mountains. They were brought from remote places. Sometimes these places were located more than 100 kilometers away. They weigh tens of tons. These stones have different electromagnetic fields. They are a kind of generator of electromagnetic waves. If you stand in the center of the structure, you experience a strange sensation. It is as if you are being sucked into an invisible funnel. Nowadays, no one knows what they were originally used for by ancient shamans, what purpose they once served. Today, a lot of knowledge has been irretrievably lost. The Altai people have turned into nomads. They live in yurts. Their daily routine is simple. The yurt is built from easy-to-assemble sliding trellises and poles and is covered with camel skin. The floor is covered with furs and carpets. In the center of the yurt, a hearth is located. The yurt is divided into two parts, one for the men to the left of the entrance and the other for the women. Weapons and hunting trophies are kept on the man's side, while the cooking ware and other utensils are kept on the woman's side. The entrance into the yurt always faces east. Next to the yurt is a structure made of poles on which sheepskins and the local cheese called pushtach are dried side by side. The people of Altai have a very special vision of the universe. The human soul reaches its peak in development while it is on the earth. Before it is born and after it has died, the soul is suffering. The concept of ultimate happiness for a man is to be about 40 years of age, to have a beautiful wife and a lot of children who would take care of the home and the herds. Meanwhile, the man should do nothing except to celebrate life with his friends by eating and drinking. However, today's life in Altai is far from perfect. A rare man reaches the age of 40. The land has become poor and barren. This is Kizil Manu village. Only one tree grows in the village. Many other villages do not even have any trees. The regional center even bears the name Kosh Agach, which translated means farewell to the tree. We were traditionally offered the local variety of cheese, which turned out to taste no better than in other places. To understand the spirit of Altai, we tried to find a living shaman. The locals told us that over the mountains, in a secluded valley, there lived an old shaman woman who could help us. The communists killed all the male shamans of the region in the 30s after the revolution. We started off on our quest. Along our way, we encountered a herd of yaks who did not seem eager to let us pass through. The encounter with angry animals did not promise anything good. However, the yaks suddenly turned back and opened up a path, allowing us to go through. Over the mountains, on the uninhabited plain, lives a lonely old woman. Every now and again, her daughters visit her in order to help her around the house and to chop some firewood. She is the last in a long line of shamans, since her daughters do not wish to take over their mother's position and spend their time learning this century-old craft. According to traditional Altai hospitality, we were invited to the table and offered to help ourselves to some cheese and tea, which the locals drink with milk, butter, and salt. It was extremely hard to persuade the old shaman woman to show us any of her rituals. She refused, saying that the spirits are not to be bothered needlessly, otherwise they may become angry and punish her. The spirits in Altai live everywhere. There are the spirits of the mountains, the rivers, the trees. There are spirits of the home, the fire, even spirits that live in the fireplace. The shaman can approach any of them with requests, but every shaman has his own helping spirit. After a long period of persuasion, the shaman woman finally agreed to demonstrate the ritual of communicating with the spirits of the fire. In their rituals, the shamans use a local herb instead of pipe tobacco and a local alcoholic brew called arakchi, made of fermented milk. All the participants in the ritual must drink it while it is still warm. Afterwards, the brew is sacrificed in the name of the spirits of the home. The ritual of Kamlania began. However, it did not last very long. Suddenly, our hostess fell ill. The spirits had punished her for bothering them without a good reason. It is a hard job to be a shaman. The spirits can be cruel at times. Perhaps this is why there are so few people in Altai today who want to become shamans. After leaving the beautiful garden, the lonely Erlich wandered through the gloomy ravines. He shouted angrily, his voice like thunder. He made a deep dark hole in the ground with his warrior feet and disappeared underground. And the trees and the flowers of the beautiful garden died. The moon was full, which meant that we had only one day left to find a shaman, since shaman do not perform their rituals when the moon is on the wane. It seemed that we would have to abandon our search. Unexpectedly, we received some good news. We were told that it would take us exactly one day to reach the home of a genuine shaman. In spite of the bad weather, we drove to his home all through the night. In the morning, we found ourselves in a magical valley and found the shaman we sought. He was busy with a quite ordinary human task. He was mowing the grass. The spirits had informed him that we were on our way. To our surprise, he immediately agreed to perform a ritual, but on one condition. Since the spirits do not allow him to perform rituals just for the sake of empty demonstration, he had to have someone who was ill in order to cure him. Thus, one of us had to play the part of the patient. Altaj had not been a shaman from birth. He suffered from epilepsy, just like his father, who ended his life by jumping off a cliff. The spirit of a dead shaman, who was executed in the 1930s, visited him in his sleep one night and told him that he would become healthy only if he started curing others. Also in his sleep, Altash received the knowledge of shaman rituals. That is the reason why he is called a true shaman. As in the old days, one could become a shaman only if the spirits told him to. When Altash communicates with the spirits, he uses a special doll that symbolizes the soul of the patient. The doll is made of thin strips of cloth that are brought by the sick and many beads that had been brought by the people he had already cured. The shaman places 3 bowls on the altar. The first one contains milk, the second one has tea in it, and the third is filled with an alcoholic brew. He also uses a lash to drive the evil spirits away. Altash summons the spirits with quiet whistling and the jingling of small bells. When the spirits appear, the shaman starts his song.
Ты ветер многокрылый, все знаешь. Ты ветер
O multi-winged wind, you know everything. You, long-living wind, remember everything. You, wind, which knows the ways of earth and sun, will never betray or laugh. You, wind, never sleep and are always on guard. You will never hide the truth. Put to sleep the evil of Erlich and send your power and invincibility to us. The spirits appear, and the ritual of healing begins. First, the shaman hangs a piece of cloth brought by the sick man on a special stick that is called an obereg. The stick is the place where the spirits are. The shaman feeds them with milk, tea, and the home brew. Then the process of healing starts. At the end of the ritual, one must bow before the altar and thank the spirits.
Все. Здоровья.
The appearance of the new shamans in Altai is a good sign. It means that the spirit of Altai is coming back to life and is beginning to talk to its people. More and more pieces of cloth can be seen on the sacred trees. Not only in the villages, but also in large cities, many ordinary people strive for a spiritual reunification with their land. They are trying to understand the language that they must use in order to communicate with the spirits of the nearby mountains. The sun of a new day arises in the ancient land, and this day will be better than the night preceding it.
Настоящий богач никогда и никому не скажет, где
A truly rich man will never tell anyone where his silver is hidden. A real Altai Kiji will never tell anyone when the people will come back.
Тихо послушай.
Get up at dawn and turn your eyes toward the morning, carefully, quietly listening to what the rising sun is singing about.